Hi, my name is Irina Pastushok, and my capstone focus is around providing critical housing support services to families who are currently involved in the child welfare system. My practicum throughout the master's program was at the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, and I worked closely with my mentor in CFWS, which is Family Reunification. And during my time there, I saw a pattern of families who experienced various levels of housing insecurity. They often didn't have a place to live, or they were crashing on somebody's couch, or they were moving a lot. It just seemed like with every case, there was some element of a family having housing issues. The Department of Children, Youth, and Families, if a family is experiencing housing insecurity and needing assistance, they have a voucher that they can give out to families. A family can apply for it at any time during their involvement with DCYF and up to 3 months after their case is closed, so they have a nice window of time. The voucher allows the family to find housing in the area that they choose to live. And it's up to the social worker to help the family navigate the housing resource, in addition to helping them navigate all the court order services that they have to do. And as we know, like social workers with DCYF have very high caseloads, they have very high workloads, and they often don't have that time to help families navigate complex housing circumstances. And we also know that the housing market right now is pretty much impossible. There's a very limited number of affordable units. A lot of places don't take vouchers, and the units that are available are extremely expensive. So families are navigating housing pretty much independently. And many of the families that come within the contact with DCYF, they also have many other barriers. You know, they have previous evictions, sometimes just low paying jobs or criminal records. And if any of those additions to a family's kind of like history makes it really, really hard and challenging to find a unit. Not only in their preferred area, but also a unit that, you know, they can get around on the bus. There's so many elements to think about when a family is applying for housing, because if they live too far from where their court order services are, they're going to have a really hard time completing the court order services. So the theoretical framework that I used for my capstone is the Housing First model. And the Housing First model, it explains that housing is a critical component of any kind of stabilities in a family's life. So they must have housing in order to achieve stable employment and keep stable employment. It's the critical element of somebody becoming possibly sober, getting and keeping up with education if they wanted to pursue it. So it's that fundamental baseline to anybody's life. So if we're looking at it from that perspective, and a family is struggling with housing insecurity, they will struggle to keep up with their court ordered services. So that adds additional harm to the families, the children. And in order for us to focus, if we are focusing on harm reduction, is to keep that in mind, is that if the family is struggling to complete their court ordered services, they will be away from their children longer, causing harm to both child and parents. The last few years, I worked for an organization called Mary's Place. Mary's Place provides emergency shelter for families experiencing homelessness. And they have a wraparound service that kind of helps families with every aspect of their life to work towards identifying like a positive housing solution. And it's a team of people that walk alongside families to help them obtain housing. And between finding affordable units to helping families, things as simple as like getting an ID or getting any kind of records, that often families just don't have the resources to navigate. those things independently. And knowing and seeing that it takes a team of people to help families find housing, it was surprising to me that the Department of Children, Youth, and Families does not provide a similar resource to those families that are struggling with housing insecurity. This is often like referred out versus it being a service that's provided internally. So through progressive engagement, Mary's Place staff were able to walk alongside families as they work through their barriers, connecting them to resources if they had prior debt, or connecting them with landlords and apartment units that we knew that, do accept applications with families who had prior evictions or criminal records or whatever their barrier may be. And that essential component of helping a family not only helped the family get into housing faster, but kind of eliminated the time they had to stay in shelter and experience, shelter life, which is living in a shelter is really, really rough. So my needs statement for my capstone is that the Department of Children, Youth, and Families need to provide critical housing support services to families who are experiencing housing insecurity and who currently have children in care. My goal statement is to provide comprehensive case management to every family who has a child in care that entails working with families through barriers and assisting them in finding long-term, sustainable, affordable, and safe housing for their family. The interventions that I proposed for my capstone includes hiring a housing resource specialist internally that would help families navigate barriers. So through progressive engagement, families would meet with the housing support specialist biweekly, and they would work together on identifying the barriers, finding resources for them, getting plugged into the community. And so the family has somebody that they can ask questions to. And if they don't understand something or need additional support, they have that person. And the family would guide those interactions. So if they wanted to engage more or less, it would really be up to them. It won't be like a mandated service, but they would have this resource at their disposal whenever they needed that. The second aspect of it would be to provide the social worker that's working with the family with the education and knowledge to fully understand the intersections of the barriers that families face when they attempt to gain long-term stability. Because a lot of these barriers have nothing to do with the court-ordered services, but to fully understand that a family cannot complete court-ordered services and do weekly UAs, therapy, parenting assessments, and all of these things, like they need to have a stable place to live and be able to actually get to these things. If their housing is super far away and it takes them 2 hours to take the bus, that's not really sustainable. And in addition, families are expected to, see their kids on a weekly basis and maintain full-time jobs. Like, it's so much for the family to do every single week while, working towards reunification or wherever part they're in. It's just a lot to expect from a family who, at the end of the day, they're worried about the roof over their head. So to provide social workers with this education and provide these critical support services of like a housing resource specialist to work alongside families, I think families would be able to get the support that they need to obtain housing faster, to be reunified with their kids faster, to have that stability faster. And by that, we are also addressing, harm reduction. We are helping families in bigger capacities than just, to have their court order services complete, because we are truly setting up these families for success in life long term. Thank you so much for your time.